altered. There is magic in the mundane, bliss in the banal. The day is your dharma. I'm your host, Amaryllis, Ayurvedic health counselor, yogini, and Akashic Records reader, and this is your life, altered. Hi, I hope everybody has had a good week. I'm wrapping up the weekend. We had snow last weekend. It was beautiful. There's still little patches of it here and there, but it feels like truly the end of winter and the seeds of spring are going to start growing. For this episode, we have the Akashic Sunday session, which I do every other week. I go into the Akashic Records for the audience of this podcast, and I channel a message. It used to be that this was on IGTV, and I would channel the message and then do a video of it, kind of summing up what the message was. But I've changed that now, and you'll hear me go directly into the Akashic Records. And what you're hearing is me channeling that message exactly as it's coming through. I'm feeling that this is a more authentic way to communicate and convey the message. So I'm going to continue doing this. Just as a heads up, I edit out the part where I open the records and ask for the message for this audience, and I edit out the closing of the records. But also with this, I draw a tarot card, which helps tie in the message for the week or the couple of weeks, or really any time that you happen to be listening to this, since time doesn't really work the way that we think that it does. So anytime you happen to be listening to this is a good time to hear the message. This week's message is on aligned action, and I also talk about the pause and what to do in that space. In the Akashic Record message talks about the pause. After the message, further towards the end of the episode, I talk about, well, what do we do during that pause? What happens in that pause? Because that's where a lot of people get tripped up. Before we start the episode with the message from the Akashic Records, I also wanted to give a shout out to all those that have been ordering Akashic Record readings and the mini messages from the Akashic Records. Thank you so much. I love doing these. And I find that people really love the mini messages. It's just $15, and I go into your Akashic Record and channel a message from your highest self, whatever it is that needs to be heard right now. And for a lot of people, it's a message of inspiration or communicating something that needs to be focused upon and needs your attention to be worked on to help clear something or move something forward. My deepest gratitude to those who have purchased. And if you are interested in a full reading or doing the mini message, you can find a link in the show notes. Scroll down and there will be a couple of different links. Okay, on with the show. This is me in the Akashic Records channeling the message. And then after that, there will be a pause and my thoughts on the message and the card drawn and what to do in that pause. There's much doing and undoing, like a sloppy stitch. You sew, but then you have to use your seam ripper, and tear it out to start over. If you are taking actions, are they aligned actions? Do they actually focus and direct to get you where you'd like to go? Or is it busyness? Busyness will not serve. You'll simply have to rip out the stitch. You did something just for the sake of doing something. Action simply for the sake of action. Busyness doesn't move you. It's a trick of action. It's an illusion of productivity. Step off of this doing and undoing, and wait for a moment until you know, sense, feel what exactly to do. This doesn't mean the little things. We don't speak about the little things. We speak of the big actions that are in your heart, that are in your soul, the places and the paths you'd like to take. What are those true actions, those aligned actions that will get you there? We also understand that doing and undoing is a way of distracting. Perhaps you feel that these bigger dreams, bigger desires are too much, scary. You are undeserving or unworthy of them, and you are actually afraid. And the doing and undoing is actually a distraction. It keeps you moving, but not forward. Observe which actions are the doing and undoing. And then you can laugh at them for what they are. Take that sense of lightheartedness. There is no need to be hard on oneself for this. Laugh at them and simply say, I see what I've been up to. Tricky, tricky. Okay. I'm going to pause now. Even if I don't know what to do, I'll wait until I get an inkling of where to place my toe for that first step. I don't need to know the entire journey right now. My mind wants to. My mind definitely wants to. But for me to take an action, I don't have to know that entire journey. Just a sense of where to place the toe. Stop with the seam ripper of your life already and take that action when it is aligned. And the card for this week, drawn for the Mother Peace Tarot, the Daughter of Swords. Okay, out of the Akashic Records now, and I wanted to make a few comments about the message. First, that it was beautiful to see that image of a stitch sewing and then having to get the seam ripper and pull out the stitching that you've done to backtrack. And I wanted to make some clarification around this because sometimes when we take action, we end up having to backtrack and realizing, oh, this wasn't quite the path. This isn't quite working out. I need to backtrack and do something in a different way, go a different direction. This is part of the process, part of the journey. This is completely fine and to be expected. What the message was speaking about is when we're taking action because we just feel like we need to take an action, some action, any action, just for the sake of doing something, even though it's not aligned, even though we haven't given any thought to it. It's really the busyness. It's really the hasty actions, the unconscious actions and movements that are not intentional and directive. As long as it has intention and direction, if you end up having to backtrack, that's absolutely fine. This message is about when we aren't aware and there isn't a direction, we just have this compulsion to be busy or to take an action. And it's getting us really nowhere, but it feels productive to us because we're doing something. The card that was drawn for this week is the Daughter of Swords. I'll have a picture of this on Instagram in the stories. If you happen to miss it while the story is live for that very short time period, you can look below and I have saved stories under podcast. You can find it there. The image is always beautiful and helpful, gives lots of symbolic messages. I highly recommend checking it out and looking at this image. I had to laugh because the Daughter of Swords is about the urge to take action, impulsive action, and rash actions. Exactly what the message was. There's an impatience to it. The swords represent air, which is movement. And in Ayurveda, the element of air is about movement. Vata is the quality which moves. It's the mover of things. And this is a good thing. We don't want things to stagnate. But this is probably too much movement. Or again, movement just for the sake of movement. And this can also be in Ayurveda a Vata imbalance. When we want to move, we keep moving just for the sake of moving, not because there's a vision and a direction and, as the records had communicated, aligned action. This card came up before in a previous reading, probably in the fall. I'd like to describe what the image is to you, just so you can get a sense of it before you go on to Instagram stories. There's a woman, a young woman, who's dressed as a warrior, who's wielding a sword. And there's this tornado of, I guess, energy above her head. And this to me shows the energy of impatience and action for the sake of action, because it's all spiraling around on itself. It's not getting her anywhere. But at the top of this tornado, this whirlwind of energy, there's a piece of it that is moving through a stone. There's a stone that has a circular hole carved into it, and the air moves through it, directed. And sweeping down from it is this white horse. I see this as focused and directed action, that it moves from this whirlwind above the head in the mind, and it actually goes through the stone of wisdom, this keyhole, focused, aligned, centered, and emerges on the other side as the stallion, directed and moving towards a vision and a bigger goal, a higher dream. An earlier episode of the Akashic Sunday session was Take an Action. And yes, we need to take actions. That message earlier was just about start something. Start with the little things around your house if you don't know where to go, what to do, if you've built up this stagnation from 2020. Just do a little thing. And it was even clearly communicated in the record's message that it's not speaking about these little things. It's talking about the actions that will move you, your soul, your spirit forward in your life into whatever it is that you're looking to manifest, to create. A bluster and flurry of movements are not going to get you there. What is taking that pause so that you can get into aligned action and then move forward. And it doesn't have to be huge steps forward, just the next tiny step is all you really need to know. I know that people want to know the entire journey. And sometimes when I do Akashic Record readings, people kind of want to know, well, what is the path? And it doesn't get laid out for you in its totality, complete and whole, so that you can see the entire journey and all the twists and turns that it takes, so that you can see everything that's going to be coming up and can prepare 100% for every little thing that's going to come up. No, it doesn't work that way. And also, what's the fun in that? But the mind likes to have that, because then the mind likes to know every single little thing so that it can say, okay, well, now that I know every single piece of this, I can say yes to it. But you're never going to know every single piece of it. You're never going to know the entire journey as it's going to unfold, because the truth is, every day you make choices that help it unfold in this way or that way. So it really comes down to the daily actions and choices. You don't have to know what big, huge step to take, just the next little tiny step. And if you don't know, pause. This is what I wanted to speak about, because this was in the records and It was mentioned about the pause, but I feel like that's a place where so many people get tripped up because they're using the busy actions as a distraction, as was said, or because they don't know what to do in that pause because it feels like, well, I'm not doing anything, and how is this helpful? I have found in that pause where I don't know, I just don't know. There isn't clarity. I'm not sure. It's just darkness, really. I have found that the best thing for me to do is instead of thinking about what I need to do next and obsessing over that, and what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What action do I need to take? What's the next step? What's the next step? Instead, I let it go and I do something that I really love, that I enjoy. Bringing in joy is the number one thing that helps me get clarity on what the next step is. Joy doing anything, especially if it's completely opposite to what it is that I'm trying to do or focus on or work toward. And then I'll find insight and direction just come out of left field from intuition. It comes in, maybe not immediately, but as I'm doing the thing that I enjoy, one, I'm enjoying myself. I'm having a good time. I'm relaxing. I'm not stressed. I'm not worried. It makes the next step come easier to me because I'm in the state of receptivity. I mean, do you feel like things come to you very easily or quickly when you're frustrated and worried and stressed and anxious about it? No, it's when we can relax and be easeful or just enjoying something that's when the ideas or the inspiration or the enlightened next step will happen. That's when we can receive it. If you're finding that you need to take a pause because the next step for you is unclear, do something that you enjoy. It's so different for everybody. And it can be something as basic as, for me, and I know this isn't the case for everybody, I have discovered TikTok and I love it. I love it. And I'm not embarrassed to say that I will spend 2 hours, probably once a week. I'll spend 2 hours on TikTok scrolling through. I am amazed at what people can do, what people can create. It brings me so much joy. I know so many people bash social media and the time suck that it can be. But in my opinion, those 2 hours that I just spent on TikTok, I was in complete awe over the dance talent that some people have. I would cry over the beautiful, heartfelt exchanges that I witnessed. I would laugh hysterically. And I don't laugh like that in my regular day to day. So, yes, I needed to laugh. So, by the time I get off TikTok, yeah, I just spent 2 hours scrolling, but I also, my heart cracked open at the beauty of humanity, at the beauty of the world. I laughed a lot and I'm happy. I really enjoyed it. I get that that's maybe not everybody's cup of tea. For some people, social media is extremely stressful. Don't go there. I'm just sharing my take on it and something that brings me joy. For you, it could be a hobby, an activity, a certain show that always makes you laugh. Whatever it is that brings you joy, if you're in that place where you have the pause, do something that makes your heart light and that eases your mind. We are being asked to not just take actions for the sake of actions, just to be busy, just for the illusion of productivity. Let's honor that. Let's recognize the ways that we're doing it, and let's take those pauses as needed. And in the meantime, during those pauses, do the joyful things. That is it for this week. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you again next week, where I'll be talking more about the body. This podcast is about the magic and the mundane, and I've been speaking more about spirit, the Akashic Records, all of this. And I haven't really focused much on the body and Ayurveda and more the physical things. So that is coming next week. And until then, definitely head over to Instagram to view this week's tarot card from the Mother Peace Tarot. Remember that spirit guides but never decides. How will you choose this hour, this day, this week at the altar of your life? Thank you so much for listening. If you feel called, subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it. Also, connect with me and discover more on Instagram at Amaryllis_Fernandez. Until next time.